Hi, I'm independent cloud architect Lynn Langett. Recently, I've been exploring the newly released Google Cloud Jumpstart solutions. In particular, I've been looking at the Analytics Lakehouse because it's something I've been working on for several customers, and I found a lot of value in it. So I decided to make a video to share the things that I've been learning with those of you who share this interest. So first, you'd need to set up, if you want to follow along, a Google Cloud practice account, and I would recommend that you create a separate project. So I've already done that, and you can set up with the free tier if you're a new Google Cloud customer. As anything though, not all the services will qualify for the free tier, so if you don't want to set this up and you're worried about unexpected charges, you can just watch what I'm doing here. So these Jumpstart solutions are really useful in that, as it says here, they're pre-built solution templates. They use Terraform, and they're deployments. So they deploy as a unit. I've also found them to be really well documented in general, and specifically for the Analytics Lakehouse, which is an architecture I've been building some proof of concepts for customers. I found that using this Jumpstart is much easier than trying to set up the parts and pieces separately. So to take a look at what is provided, if we drill in, you can see that the format here is a summary up at the top, a link to the Terraform, some information about the services, in this case, the fact that serverless Spark is being used and there might be an error because of allocation, so on and so forth. Over on the right, the minimum monthly starting price is listed, and the reason it's so low is this is basically serverless type of a solution, so you pay by the invocation. Minimum really means minimum. If you use it more heavily, you're going to, be charged more. The estimated deployment time is pretty accurate. I found it to be a little bit longer than this, and you can see, the source code on GitHub and documentation as well. So if you are comfortable with just trying it out after reading the paragraph up here, you can just click deploy and start, but there is more information. So the next section has the services or the products used. So BigQuery, Dataproc, Dataplex, which is relatively new. It's metadata management for data lakes. They call it their intelligent data fabric. Looker, which is visualization and cloud storage. And then I really like these architecture drawings. They're done at a level that summarizes the solution very nicely. So you can see that you have input data that you drop into cloud storage, and then it actually details it at the bottom here. So it's a pretty rich solution just right out of the box. And when you create any of these, and this is cookbook style, I've already set this up. Then you get a solution deployment, and here's my Analytics Lakehouse. You can explore with the Looker Studio dashboard, with the BigQuery editor, with Colab. You can look at, these are the deployment logs that uses Cloud Build, and you can see that all the resources that are created are linked. And one of the things that I was wanting to explore immediately upon setting this up was Apache Iceberg. Having a history working with Hadoop and Hive, I was aware that Iceberg in many ways was heralded as an evolution beyond Hive, overcoming some of the limits of Hive. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and then I'm going to show you some of the research I did quickly to understand a little bit more about Iceberg. One of the first things that I would use when I'm trying to quickly research any new technology is the new Gen AI tools. And I like to just use both Bard and ChatGPT because I'm trying to learn about Gen AI in general. My prompt was generate a list of the key features of the open source project Apache Iceberg. I can give you a minute here to take a look at what was produced. Just for comparison, I also use ChatGPT. And I've done some personalization in ChatGPT, so it addresses me as Lynn. One thing that I liked was the summary at the top here, and then it really has the same feature list, but it did have that summary. So that was useful. Then I found this article that compared Hive and Iceberg and did a little bit more research, which I'll just tell you the summary of, that Iceberg was created originally at Netflix and then open sourced as evolution of the limits of Hive. And so if you, like me, have a familiarity with Hive, this article has a good summary of the differences. And then another article I found in my research that I thought was interesting, I wanted to share, was the differences between Iceberg and the format Parquet. So in a nutshell, it looks like Iceberg provides greater functionality for the use cases. Okay, now we have that background, so let's take a closer look at what we deployed here. So the first thing I want to look at is the cloud storage buckets. So I'm going to go to my list and I'm going to scroll down. And here's the section on cloud storage. You can see all the buckets have GCP Lakehouse as a prefix in their name. And I'm going to take a look at, I'm just really going to go in and look at what's in the tables, see if they're populated with any data. So I'm in my tables, and it looks like I have some staging data that is images in this case. And what else do I have here? Python script for BigQuery. Another one. Nothing in there, the raw data. Tables, it looks like the public data for the New York taxi trips was used here. And this is Parquet data, so optimized format. And I have a staging, looks like a database here. So if I drill in, all Parquet. So it looks like the sample is heavily using Parquet data. So I have these buckets, and that looks like it's a different project here. My eye always looks at anything public. And let's see, so the tables, let me see if there's anything interesting in the table setup here in this bucket. So the configuration has a lot of labels in it. And is there anything else here? Permissions look pretty standard. No life cycle. Observability is nothing going on there. And storage insights are not turned on. So those are my buckets. So next I want to look at my BigQuery tables. So according to this, Data Lake is created and they're Big Lake tables. So let's go into BigQuery and let's take a look in my project. I have some, let's make it bigger so you can see it. Oh, that's pretty good. All right, I have some external connections, and those connections are Big Lake connections. So again, that was set up by the solution. And then for the lake house, I have a set of objects here. And this first object has labels, so it looks like the labels were applied automatically. And I have something called routines, which look like scripts to me. Oh, yeah, SQL scripts, okay. And then I have an Iceberg table, aggregated events, Iceberg. So yeah, the source format is Iceberg. And BLMS, I'm not familiar with what that is. I'll have to look that up. Okay, and I could have data lineage and data profiling and data quality if I wanted to, but lineage is set up. So that would be, it looks like an Iceberg feature. So I have this table, this is based on Parquet data in a bucket. So it looks like I have kind of a raw table and then an aggregate table that's in the Iceberg format, which is the evolution of Hive, if I'm understanding this correctly. And then I've got a view that is basically just a standard SQL view. So this is my lake house, and then I have primary curated with it's a data set, but it doesn't look like there's anything in it. Then primary raw, so I have staging. And I go in here again, this is data from the bucket, so it's to be Parquet data, where I can have lineage. And here, same thing. So this is my raw data, then my stage data. This is my public data. Looks like we copied it though into this bucket because this is from this project. And here's the connection ID. Yep. Okay. So all staging tables. Then I have a summary data set with a summary table. And I see the size of this. Is this just a classic table? I can preview this table. Let's see if I can preview. No, I can't preview a big lake table. That's interesting. But I can preview. This must be a BigQuery. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so that's the BigQuery portion of this. So I have the BigQuery tables. So the data transformations can be performed using Spark or BigQuery. So I would be having something in Dataproc. So let's take a look at Dataproc. Is that listed here? No. Got Dataplex. Let me just go to the next page. Interesting, I have workflows. I want to just look at that. So copy data. This is relatively new capability. And so this was part of the setup to copy the data. So you have logging. Let's see the metrics, details, copies data, okay. Trigger, there isn't one. There's what I was looking for. The source. So it's sort of a classic ETL here. Okay. That's a nice use of this. Nice. Okay. And so we have the project set up. I want to just look at this too. I'm curious. And the source. Just doing a bunch of assignment. I'm looking at the Iceberg setup here because that's going to be new to me. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to look at Dataproc, but I'm not seeing that in the list. Let's see. Nope. So I'll just open up Dataproc. I've tested serverless Spark in notebooks, and it's really elegant. That's sessions. This is going to be batches because you're doing Spark processing to convert into the Iceberg tables. So if we drill in here, the reason I know that is because I've actually looked at the logs in advance. So you can see here that we are using Iceberg. And that's how this summary table was created when this solution was set up. Why this is so important is this is serverless, so it's much cheaper than server-based. And really nice for this kind of scenario where you're doing data conversion. Great to see this pattern. Okay, so we have got the cloud storage buckets, the BigQuery, Big Lake tables, and regular tables. We've seen the tagging throughout this. And we looked at the conversion to the Iceberg table format, which is the evolution of Hive. I guess just to be complete, we can look at the Looker Studio dashboard. Not as interesting to me, but of course to the business, this is always very, very interesting. So you get an end-to-end solution here, which is kind of nice, which is editable. And this is a e-commerce. Looks like it's based on the taxi data. Oh, I guess this is some sales data. Okay, kind of a nice visualization that's editable. All right, and then if you open the BigQuery editor, that's where we were right here. So that would just be query. So we were there, basically. And if we wanted to just retrieve from the summary table, we could do that. Okay, great. So let's continue on here. So the BigQuery machine learning, I don't know if there's, maybe that's in the script somewhere. Again, that's not really new to me, so I'm not as interested in diving into that right now. What I am very interested in is this Dataplex. So let's go there. And so what we have is we have our lake. So in Dataplex, we have our primary lake that has a number of tables. So some of the tables are in cloud storage. And you can see they're being managed by Dataplex. We're still in Dataplex here. So we have governance logs, schema and column tags, partition details, data attribute binding permissions. Not sure what that is. I'd have to look that up. Okay. All right, so we were searching and we were looking at our lake. And we have also file sets. So what is the difference between a file set and a table? Create table operation. So is this, we've created the Iceberg table here? Okay, I'm going to have to, again, do a bit more research. This Jumpstart, though, it enables me to have a working solution much more quickly than when I tried to set this up via individual pieces. So if I go into the lakes, or the lake, because I have a primary lake, which was set up, and lakes have zones, and they're either raw or curated. So let me look at the raw zone first. And zones have assets, and the assets are either BigQuery data sets or buckets at this point. So this is the centralized metadata and management. So we have this raw zone, and inside of here we have two kinds of logs. Discovery logs, so this is interrogating the data source to see what's there. Again, this is functionality I've had customers write manually rather than taking advantage of services that a cloud vendor provided. And governance. Create table. This must be based on schema requirements. Permissions. So you're managing at the level of the lake. And actions. data quality format. Okay, so corrective. Okay, and this is called managed. And it's a bucket. Okay. And this is also a bucket. So we're in a raw zone. And these are entities because they're managed. Okay. And I have integrated metrics, permissions, and then those actions that I can do. Okay. All right, what is the difference between a raw and a curated zone? So I have two assets here, two buckets, and then my stage curated zone in my lake, I have also a bucket. So I don't have a BigQuery table in here. So I would want to understand how I could manage BigQuery dataset, how I could manage BigQuery datasets. Okay, so these are managed. And again, I'm wondering why you would want to have unmanaged. And this business intelligence curated zone, what is the intended use of this? I would want to land what in here? My BigQuery curated dataset? I'm not really sure. So this, again, really gives me a vehicle that I can explore more quickly than fumbling around to set up all these parts and pieces manually. What is it in here? I don't know, more than 50. I don't know how many total objects, but a number of objects with many best practices. So, it's a little bit of a rambling video here, but I wanted you to kind of see my process in learning and absorbing new architectures as an architect. These jumpstarts really are very useful, and I'm going to be continuing to work on data lakehouse patterns for my customers, and I will probably continue to use this. Maybe if I get very motivated, I will go into the Terraform and update it and fork it to make a version, for example, that has resources in the curated business intelligence zone. So in other words, enhance this. I'm not committing to it because we'll see how my time goes. But I just wanted to take this time today and show you why I find this so useful, kind of how I would work with it, and to really recommend it for learning, whether you're doing this lakehouse or whether you want to explore some of these other solutions. One other one that I thought was particularly interesting is this generative AI document summarization, which is a sort of a classic invoker, but it uses Vertex AI with the LLM in it. And I've played around with this one as well, and it's super interesting. So that's it for today. I guess this is a time of architecture with Lynn. I know I'm going to be spending time exploring these jumpstarts because I've certainly found this analytics lakehouse to be very, very useful. So thanks to the team at Google for the hard work to set this up. Really appreciate it.